With the Nintendo Switch 2 getting a blowout when it comes to information on the system, its features, some of the specs, and examples of what third parties and Nintendo can do on the system, my mind has went ablaze, spinning with the ideas that Monolith Soft's next Nintendo Switch 2 game is going to be groundbreaking. Their first real title that they work on when it comes to Coheisive Team 1. Many discussions, many different videos that I've made about their new RPG that they're working on. We don't exactly know what it's going to be. Is it going to be a brand new Xenoblade game? Is it going to be a brand new Xeno game with a different theme and a different type of battle system? Is it going to be a brand new IP? You don't really know right now, but what I do know is that this game will be absolutely incredible. And out of all of Nintendo's teams, Monolith Soft absolutely has the team size, they have the fortitude, and they have the developers to make something that we will not see coming at all on the platform. Now, if you're enjoying Monolith Soft and RPG Talk, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and click that notification bell, as I've got way more Monolith Soft videos planned, especially as we get closer and closer to that eventual reveal of Monolith Soft's new RPG. Now, let's get back into this, because there are a number of reasons that I've put out here based off of what we've seen recently that has me thinking that Monolith Soft is going to cook. It is going to be incredible what we see. So let's start off with what we're seeing with third-party developers. We've seen developers like CD Projekt Red, who obviously didn't have dev kits and weren't up to speed with what the Nintendo Switch 2 is doing as early as Monolith Soft, and they've been able to work on a build of one of the most graphically intense games on PC and on consoles with Cyberpunk 2077. Get it up and running and get it looking pretty good, running at a decent frame rate depending on where you are, and it's not even done yet. They're talking about a potential 40 frames per second performance mode in addition to a 30 frames per second quality mode. So we'll see what the final thing ends up being on that, but overall it's pretty impressive considering that Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition with the Phantom Liberty DLC isn't even on the PlayStation 4 because it's too graphically intense. Once again, not expecting PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X levels of graphics and performance, but the fact that they even got it going at a decent rate with lots of stuff on screen and it's not running like at 10 frames per second, that is impressive in its own right. Now, that's just CD Projekt Red. They are not Nintendo's first party. They probably don't have a full grasp on what the system is and what it can do, and it's a launch title, so they didn't get as much time to make sure they can do everything that they can, and that's okay. It's fine. I think it's going to be a great game in its own right, but imagine if they can get that huge open world and the graphic intensity of Cyberpunk on the system in that type of development atmosphere. Monolith Soft is going to have a field day with this system because they are a first-party developer wholly owned by Nintendo, and we're absolutely, or have been absolutely, working on this next thing for the Nintendo Switch 2 for years now at this point. So they're going to have so much time to cook. So it's very impressive to see an open world game like Cyberpunk up and running and CD Projekt Red actually showing it off at that point. So they still have more time. That gives me a lot of, I would say, excitement for Monolith Soft's next game and how it's going to be truly groundbreaking just based off of the visual flair that could come to it because of what we're seeing with some of the other third-party developers. We also have other big games that are set to come to the system as well. Final Fantasy VII Remake is another game. Yes, it's on PlayStation 4, but this is the integrated version with the updated lighting and better graphics over the original PlayStation 4 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake. So that game is a big graphic intensive game that actually looks better than a lot of PlayStation 5 games. Like, not every single one, but that game still looks really good when it comes to character models and the environments and everything. And they got that game up and running on the Nintendo Switch as well, looking very solid from the comparisons and short footage that we do have. Now, Monolith Soft, with their art style and with what they like to do with their techniques in development for the Nintendo Switch for a Japanese RPG, that gets me super excited as well, because one of the big things that we even heard with people heading into the Nintendo Switch 2 is that, hey, it might not be able to handle Final Fantasy VII Remake, even running on a base PlayStation 4, but it's handling it and it's doing just fine. So seeing big JRPGs like Final Fantasy VII Remake and big Western open world games like Cyberpunk on the Nintendo Switch 2 running decent enough for where we are at this point before launch, that is incredibly exciting and absolutely shows that Monolith Soft is going to cook once again. Now let's talk about the actual internals of what's happening with Monolith Soft. Biggest team size ever for Takahashi Team 1. This cannot be understated. Monolith Soft has been growing and growing and growing. And yes, a lot of it is going to their auxiliary teams to help out with the next big Legend of Zelda or Animal Crossing or Splatoon, which I'm sure Nintendo has all those IPs getting ready to be locked up, loaded, and ready to go. They're going to be coming to a Nintendo Direct at some point overall. So that's going to be exciting to see those. But their team size, even with Takahashi Team 1, is its biggest that it's ever been. With that extra help and that extra support, they're going to be loading up to make sure that that next game really launches and does a great job of showing what Monolith Soft can do, not only for the visual flair of the game, but actually making really fun, innovative combat systems that are going to get players excited to play their games. Listen, we can talk about how Monolith Soft does graphics all you want to, Xenoblade X and Xenoblade 3 and what they did with the Nintendo Switch and what they've done with the Wii U and what they did with the Wii, but at the end of the day, I think people also play Monolith Soft titles because they create gameplay mechanics and systems that you really just can't get anywhere else at all. Xenoblade is a very unique blend of turn-based and action RPG and MMO style and combat. It's just really weird. That's in addition to the incredibly intricate, crafted stories that only Monolith Soft have seemed to be able to pull off when it comes to the Nintendo Switch. It's just incredible. When you combine that with the combat, it just creates a superb experience that so many fans out there feel that is one of a kind. So I do feel that with this one here and the team size increasing, it's going to be very good for the next combat system, depth of mechanics, mission variety, and more, where their devs can actually create games with a little bit less stress with more people helping out. Next up here, guys, is they're working on an iteration of a platform with a clear focus. Now, it's been in Nintendo's, I would say, benefit and also detriment to have systems that really do a bunch of different things. Sometimes it's really cool to get something different, but other times it's good to actually work with something that you know and make it bigger, badder, and better than ever, then also streamlining the processes for your biggest games in order to be as efficient and the best they can possibly be. And that's what the Nintendo Switch 2 is. It's a platform that is an iterative platform over the Nintendo Switch that takes what they did with that system and improves every single aspect by multiple times in order to create a system that's already really good for what Monolith Soft does in RPGs with the hybrid, but will take it even better as there is that stability going from Nintendo Switch 1 to Nintendo Switch 2, to having NVIDIA and working with them and their graphics, and then moving over to, okay, now we're having a custom GPU, and we really kind of cut our chops making multiple games on the Nintendo Switch 1, but now it's really time to show all of that experience and all that work that we got. We can really take advantage of that since there's not a big shift or a big change in terms of what the main mission of this platform is. It's going to be able to have awesome gameplay experiences on the go or at home, and it's into improved quality across the board that can create new gameplay experiences that's really going to help what Monolith Soft does, making massive RPGs with a lot of complex and intricate systems. The Nintendo Switch 2 is perfect for Monolith Soft, and with this platform being a clear focus and not having to worry about potentially having some type of weird type of gimmick or different type of thing that probably is going to get in the way of what Monolith Soft does, like potentially a Wii U gamepad, right? Some people like it for Xenoblade Chronicles X, but there was some issues on the Wii U or Wii Remote, which sometimes doesn't even work for that type of game, and using a classic controller is better. You don't have those distractions, and you can really hone in and focus in. And if you want to use some of the gimmicks like the game share, maybe for a multiplayer thing, or even like the mouse mode for picking certain types of arts or menus or whatever, or even a mini game or something like that, you can do that, but it doesn't have to be a requirement, and you can focus on exactly that portable home console hybrid play that people loved and people took advantage of with Xenoblade games on the Nintendo Switch 1. Now, next up is something that I really want to see Monolith Soft really go into, because they haven't done the best job overall with all the Xeno games on Switch 1, is HD Rumble. We do have HD Rumble 2 with the bigger Joy-Cons and more quality Pro Controller 2 that's coming. Nintendo has increased and made the Joy-Con Rumble motors more effective, more tactile, more of them, more intricate. So this is something that's been explained by people that have already played it, and Nintendo did kind of get into it a little bit when it comes to the HD Rumble 2 and how they've improved it over that. We need to see Monolith Soft really use that HD Rumble for this next RPG game. I think it could really benefit them for certain types of strikes, whether you're hitting with a sword or a blunt force object or kicking and punching. These are the type of things with those extra motors and what they're doing with the Switch Pro Controller 2 and with the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons. They can really make something interesting to play that can help with the immersiveness of Monolith Soft's games that are already incredibly immersive, just be it that, without any type of rumble or anything. So I'm really hoping that HD Rumble 2 can be integrated and can be effective in what Monolith Soft does. Next up is more on the look of the games. It's something that people have complained about with Monolith Soft titles in the past, and you've got it now fixed. You've got 120 frames per second screen with HDR at 1080p. There's everything that you need from the graphical standpoint overall, which we'll get into in just a bit. And you can combine that with all of the nice features. There's no reason why, when it comes to NVIDIA G-Sync and stuff that you can do with that 120 frames per second screen, that Monolith Soft should have any problem with their games not running well in portable mode, which has been a problem for Monolith Soft actually with every single Xenoblade game on the Nintendo Switch. There has been dips and there's been some issues. It's dipped under 30. There's no reason why we should have any type of dips, even when there's a lot of stuff happening on screen and everything. With that screen, with it being 120 frames per second, with it having HDR, with it having G-Sync, and with it having more stuff that we're going to talk about, there's no reason at all. This should be perfect for handheld and portable play, unlike what we've gotten in the past. Still incredible games, but Xenoblade 2 was rough. Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition had its issues in terms of overall image, and Xenoblade 3 was the best overall, but they used a custom type of upscaler, I think FSR or something like that, to really help that game out, and it blurred down quite a bit once you go into the chain attacks and have a lot of stuff that's happening, or if there's just a ton of enemies on screen, rendering everything in the open world all real time, because you can run in and out of battles as you want. It doesn't go to a separate battle screen or lock you off like you've seen with other RPGs out there on stronger hardware. So I do feel that having this screen, having HDR, having the 1080p, there's not really any type of excuse done at this point, especially considering what we're going to talk about next, and that is the significantly more RAM in the system, memory bandwidth, GPU computing power, once again, NVIDIA G-Sync. There's so many different things. DLSS that could be implemented. There's so many different things that makes the Nintendo Switch 2 just a beast over Nintendo Switch 1, even being able to handle games like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom at 1440p resolution, which is what I think it is at this point based off of initial tests, and 60 frames per second in even the most intensive areas like the forest for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So I do think that with all of that, it's really going to lend to what Monolith Soft can do, because they've had issues in the past with that, and now you have everything that you need from a display and from a power perspective to knock it out of the park. I have no doubt in my mind, because of everything that I'm listing here. You can create more vivid, beautiful worlds. You have the horsepower to get it done. You have the artist to get it done, because it's not just about the power of the system. It's about how you actually apply it to your art, to your engine, to your systems, and to your team that collectively work together to build something incredible. And I would say this: Monolith Soft probably has the best work environment and the best developers when it comes to working together to create a shared vision, because they've had severe limitations in the past with the Wii, with the Wii U to a degree, with the Nintendo Switch, and every single time they've been able to put out something that absolutely exceeded the expectations of what every other developer could do on the Nintendo Switch, with the exception of a few devs here and there internally from Nintendo. But they've essentially outdone everybody else from a third-party standpoint by a country mile. And they've done it with less employees than a lot of these big developers out there. And they've also done it with less time as well, getting so many games out on the Nintendo Switch. So to me, this is really going to be something that it's going to be their chance, their opportunity to create something that's just going to be incredible and groundbreaking. And I can smell it right now at this point. When we get that announcement, we're going to come back to this video and say, oh my gosh, yo, OJ, you were completely right. This game is cooking Gordon Ramsay style, man. It is on fire. So I cannot wait for that day till we see it. Maybe sometime this year, maybe early next year. We'll see what happens there. But what do you guys think about what Monolith Soft is working on next? Give me your ideas on what they can do in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other RPG and Monolith Soft videos right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.